My dad loves to brag. Liu Qingyi, the lady from the prime minister's family, barged in. Liu Qingyi stood aside. He took a pair of golden scissors from the matchmaker. The scissors are entirely made of gold, carved with phoenix patterns. It was my mother who specially prepared this as part of my dowry. I slowly walked up to Granny Jiang, with the scissors in my hand. Squat down. The scissors were aimed at the delicate peony by his temple. A gentle flick of the flower. Click. The peony petals fell to the ground with a thud, one hand supporting her belly. Petals scattered all over the ground. Granny Zhang. You are so pleasing and well-behaved, attempting to make decisions for one's master, disrupting the order of the prince's residence, bullying the principal wife. This is a serious crime. Dark law publicly annoys me. Rather than indifference and scissors, but she pressed down slightly on his neck, a lowly old slave. She also wore a peony, a symbol of the principal wife's honor. One hand used a handkerchief to trace the mouth. Who gave you the guts? Jiang Momo was so frightened that she trembled all over, soul scattered. His head almost hit the ground, tears streaming down my face. This servant knows I was wrong. This servant will never dare to do it again. Please. Your Highness. Spare my life. Please. Your Highness. Have mercy. Today is my wedding day. My beloved princess. I don't want to see happy. His eyes, however, were filled with barely concealed pride and excitement. I slowly withdrew the scissors. He stood up, his tone icy. But if there was a next time, it's not as simple as just cutting off a flower. Go down and take 20 zhang, approximately 6 meters to the village to do hard labor. Never to return to the capital. Granny Jiang granted a general amnesty. He kowtowed repeatedly to express his gratitude. They scrambled back down. The people around were trembling with fear. Bury your head even lower. I knelt on the ground without saying a word. I dared not have the slightest doubt anymore. And the matchmaker raised her eyes. Clear voice. But he took all the keys to the main courtyard. Don't worry about losing to the dealer in the game. Bring the complete list of servants and send it to me. The queen. The matchmaker immediately obeyed and quickly left. I looked at the group of servants kneeling on the ground. The voice was authoritative. The news spread throughout the entire prince's residence. Everyone else. Listen up. The third prince sneered, refusing to kneel. Starting today, this princess is the mistress of this prince's residence. All matters, big and small, within the mansion, everything must be done according to my rules. Anyone who dares to outwardly comply but inwardly defy, secret collusion, deceiving superiors and concealing the truth, that would be to be an enemy of His Majesty, using my national martial arts as an enemy. Her fate would be the same as that of Granny Jiang. Grab my hair, my voice. The news reached the ears of everyone present. Those servants kneeling on the ground. His body trembled even more violently. They all shouted in unison. Your servants obey. Your servant obeys the decree, obeying the princess's instructions. The matchmaker quickly handed over the key. The entire list of defendants in the lawsuit has been submitted. I weighed the pros and cons. They suddenly slammed my head to the ground. Heavy. This is a right. Dignity is everything I deserve. Very good. I nodded. I hereby issue an order to all stewards within the Jiang residence. Who on the roof? The steward and the head of the manor were all rescued and brought to the main courtyard, listening to the government. Tonight, I insist on familiarizing myself with all the affairs of the palace. All family property was designated. The moment his forehead collided with the ground, anyone who dares to conceal the truth will be immediately flogged and expelled from the mansion. The bride accepted the order and left. The people inside the main hall withdrew one after another, not daring to delay even for a moment. The main hall was decorated with a festive atmosphere. Yellow candles flicker. Dragon and phoenix bring auspiciousness. Red carpet all over the ground. Everywhere was filled with the joy of a newlywed couple. But amidst this joyous occasion, warm liquid streamed down my cheeks. But that one was missing. My groom should have been waiting here. Third Prince Liu Qingyi. He was clearly still sulking. He hid in the study and refused to come out. They want to give me the cold shoulder whenever they see me. I went straight to the head of the table and sat down, composed, without a trace of grievance or anger. Someone bring the alloy liquor. Shen Ji pointed at my nose and spoke. Don't wait. The princess wanted to drink it herself. Jinyang was somewhat embarrassed. Stepping forward, she whispered her advice to Her Highness the Princess. This Hejin wine must be drunk with Your Highness. That is perfection. Your Highness must be feeling unwell tonight. I have no time to attend to you. Your Highness, as you are unwell, no time to attend to this princess. That's his business. I sneered. My maid, Green Pearl, rushed towards me, crying out. Interrupting him was a royal rule. This is the dignity I, as the principal wife, should have. Since he's not coming, then this princess doesn't need to wait for him. The man poured the wine. The maids dared not disobey. Immediately bring out the alloy liquor. Fill both glasses. Pick up one of the cups. He tilted his head back and drank it all in one gulp. Want to protect me? The wine is mellow and rich, with a hint of spiciness, scalding hot as it goes down. It was as if all the grievances and resentment were being burned away. I didn't pour out the other cup. Instead, The matchmaker brought an empty porcelain bottle, poured all the wine into the bottle. He then personally picked up the cinnabar seal and affixed it to the bottle mouth. I am clear-headed and strong tomorrow morning. Deliver this bottle of wine to the third prince. But it was the servants of the third prince. I have a loud voice, but it carried an unquestionable command that told him, "This is He Jinjiu. It's the leftover wine from this princess. Even if it's leftover wine, he had to obediently drink it. Not a single drop can be left." The matchmaker was stunned. He followed my parents for many years, knowing my temperament. A hard slap across the face. Understand what this means. I want Li Jingyuan to lower his head. The head needs to make him understand. In this mansion, I am the master. He gave me a deep look. He accepted the order in public. Your servant obeys the decree. After the wedding, attendant and maids withdrew. Only my personal maid, Green Pearl, and I remained in the main hall. Green Pearl looked at me. Blood immediately splattered from the corner of his mouth. Miss with slightly red eyes. You've been wronged. Your Highness has gone too far. Newlyweds today. He's actually avoiding you. I leaned back in my chair. Looking at the flickering candlelight, there was no sign of sleepiness in his eyes, only a cold, steadfast landlord remained unperturbed, since he was unkind first. I looked at Green Pearl lying on the ground. Don't blame me for being ruthless later, Prince Zhang. Since you don't want to give me any face, then I'll take it by my own hands. Since you are protecting Liu Qingyi, then I'll give you one. A hat that will make you unable to hold your head up for the rest of your life. The sunrise no longer cast long glances at the sharpness in my eyes. He just stood silently behind me, protecting me. That night, the side hall of the main courtyard was brightly lit. All the stewards in the manor arrived very quickly. The warmth in the back of the eyes gradually faded. No one dared to be late, clearly. Gangmo looked disheveled after being punished. It has already served as a warning to others. No one dares to look down on me, the new queen, anymore. I scanned the crowd. Most of them had their heads down. His face was filled with unease and fear. He dared not look me in the eye. I don't have extra classes. Directly put the ledger. It seems your luggage wasn't enough to teach you a lesson. All the registers and deeds were laid out on the table, one by one. The questions began to be asked. The price and quantity purchased from Mi Liangkai, monthly wages and rewards for servants, gold and silver jewelry from the warehouse, quota silk, harvests from farms in various places. The rent for the defense comes from the daily expenses of the government. I asked very detailed questions about interpersonal relationships with outsiders, not letting any disclosure go unnoticed. Tricered Prince. Let go of my hair. Any concealment. These are all things my mother taught me since I was little. He's the richest man in Beijing, managing countless family assets. I was influenced by what I saw and heard from a young age. To the housekeeper, John Mu had long been familiar with the comings and goings of the battle. These managers are trying to pull some tricks on me. Hiding from his mother-in-law. Loyalty, to protect one's own pockets. Don't think that just because you have a good family background you can do whatever you want. He took something out of the show. It's practically suicide. Several attempts to conceal from their mothers-in-law. I exposed the officials who reported the expenses one by one. He immediately ordered his father-in-law to be driven out of the mansion. The remaining managers were terrified. I will never dare to hide anything again. Honest and reliable. I will answer all questions. Sleepless night. I have thoroughly investigated all of Huang Zifu's assets. All accounts have been sorted out. His Highness feels sorry for you. Hold all power firmly in your hands. For several consecutive days, the third prince's residence. Everyone was in a tense atmosphere. Liu Qingyi was sent to the family temple. After being taken to the ancestral temple, there has been no further news. The third prince, Li Jingyuan, has also made few public appearances recently, hiding in the study all day. Occasionally, someone would be sent over some harmless tonics. I returned them all intact. I don't want you to suffer, he knew. I really won't give him any more face. Do you really want to gain a foothold in this mansion? Until half a month later, an invitation from the first prince's residence, quietly sent into the mansion. It's in my hands. The invitation stated that a banquet would be held in the palace. Spring flower viewing. We respectfully invite the third prince's consort to attend. I specially prayed for your blessing. I put down the invitation. A strange, enigmatic smile curled at the corner of Liu Qingyi's lips. You finally couldn't help it. Even if they were sent to the family temple, still unwilling to settle down, still plotting against me in secret. I knew it all along. Before Liu Qingyi was placed under house arrest, they had already secretly contacted the great emperor. The power of the Z faction. The imperial concubine finally spoke slowly. The eldest prince and the third prince have been engaged in a power struggle for many years, contending for the throne, like fire and water. Now that I, the principal wife, have appeared, those wielding the power of Zhengguo martial arts entered the third prince's residence. This undoubtedly disrupted the balance between them. Liu Qingyi wanted to borrow the eldest prince's knife. I've let you down, you stumbling block. And the eldest prince's instigation. Kill two birds with one stone. The voice was full of hypocritical compassion. Eliminate me to suppress the third prince. It can also win over the Liu family's power to strengthen itself. This flower viewing party. It's bound to be a terrible feast. A veritable trap. Friendship will surely take advantage of the prosperous times, using the most insidious methods, intending to link me with the national martial arts, thrown into a place of no return. I'm going anyway since they want to play. Then I'll play along with them to the very end. Your Majesty is interested in the martial arts of Zhongjiang Kingdom, enjoying the flowers on the day. Tianlong steals Qing, Haifeng chorus. I got up early this morning, apply the most prestigious makeup in the entire capital, wearing an elegant dress, pocket crown, riding on the prince's residence. The principal wife taught the young emperor, escorted by maids and a group of Qing soldiers, prohibited from going to the palace. Flowers bloom in profusion on both sides of the road. So, the position of principal wife is still yours. Peach blossoms and apricot blossoms. Peonies in full bloom. A riot of colors. Absolutely beautiful. The palace was exceptionally lively today. Noblewomen of the royal family. The families of court officials gathered together. Joy of spring. It was so lively. I kept my eyes straight ahead. But in private. You are the world's identity. Calm expression. Led by the maid. It would be better to have the empress's seat at the banquet in order of precedence. Imperial concubine pays her respects. When the imperial concubine saw me, stiff smile, the corner of his mouth twitched, want to pretend to be calm and peaceful. Yet, he couldn't hide the resentment and helplessness in his eyes. Chrysanthemum language at the third prince's residence. Today I'll teach you some rules. My conflict with the third prince has already spread throughout the capital. Conserved. The birth mother of the third prince. Disgrace. However, due to his majesty's decree, dare to show me the slightest disrespect. They could only put on a show and feign a few words of praise. I calmly guard the Han dynasty. He did not say much. He sat down directly. Halfway through the practice, I won't compete with you for the title of princess consort. That's enough to save face for you. The palace maids brought out plates of exquisite pastries. Unique design, sweet and delicious. I noticed. One of the plates of pastries was placed in front of me. Exceptionally unique. The shape is a lifelike rock sugar peony. Crystal clear. It's obvious at a glance that it was carefully prepared. I was just about to reach out and grab it. The third prince grabbed my finger. A palace maid suddenly rushed out from beside him. He suddenly raised his hand. He knocked the plate of pastries to the ground. The rock, sugar peony, was smashed to pieces. Pastries scattered all over the floor. It's a complete mess. The palace maid exclaimed in surprise. Kneel down. Trembling all over. Excellent acting skills. Without saying a word, he pressed it against my forehead. It was him. It was him who wanted to curse the imperial concubine. It was the third prince's consort who murdered the imperial concubine. All eyes instantly turned to me. Shock and doubt. Gloating. There was disdain. But I calmly looked at that person. The goddess of the palace remained calm. Without the slightest panic, I just watched her quietly. Let's wait and see how she finishes this good show. On the wound that kept gushing blood, the palace maid knelt on the ground, weeping with tears streaming down her face. The servant girl cried out that she had just distributed the high-point food. I overheard the princess's personal maid whispering. Whispers say that this plate of pastries contains grains. If the imperial concubine were to consume this, she would be afflicted by an evil spell. Delirious. Life hanging by a thread. In her haste, the maid spilled the pastries. We beg your highness to investigate. His words abruptly stopped. His bright red paper print was missing, deliberately leaving suspense. But it only fuels the imagination. Whispers suddenly arose from all around. The discussion grew louder and louder. The imperial concubine's face turned pale, gripping the handrail tightly. The look in my eyes. It also carried a hint of disbelief. In everyone's eyes. My father was the Duke of Zheng. It landed heavily on the paper. Holding a large army. My mother is the daughter of the richest man in the world and wields immense power. Wealthy, richer than a country. I should have been content with such a tumultuous family affair. But I ended up marrying the unfavored third prince. He must be unwilling. That's why they resorted to such despicable methods as black bones. Cursing the imperial concubine to murder the prince, intending to disrupt the court. That moment, I stared coldly at the palace maid. His gaze swept over the crowd not far away. A familiar figure was quietly retreating from behind. The person with a panicked expression was none other than. It was in the former prince's residence. An old nanny beside Liu Qingyi. The spies he planted. Now, it's finally come in handy. Witch Valley technique. My life of filial piety and ordinariness. I heard Liu Qingyi's smug chuckle, but it carried a sense of intimidation. You, a mere palace maid. How dare you slander the royal consort without any evidence? Is there any evidence? There is evidence. Of course. The palace maid seemed to have no choice but to. A fierce look. He took something out of his pocket. He lifted the servant girl high when she was knocked down. I picked this up myself, hearing suppressed gasps from the assembled guests. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound. In his hand, he was holding a small imperial tally. The imperial seal had a lotus character written crookedly on it. That was the name of the imperial concubine. The hall erupted in chaos. Surprisingly, the protection of life rose and fell one after another. The discussion was deafening. Oh my god. It really is the daughter of the Duke of Wugu Fujiang. I also heard the dignity of my country's kung fu. They actually did such a thing as Aza. That's terrifying. How dare you curse the imperial concubine? This is treason. The imperial concubine gripped the armrest tightly, directly turns white. His face was as pale as paper. I imagined my eyes were filled with anger and disappointment. I have treated you well, showing my goodwill. The Shen family has also received great favor from the emperor over the years. But if you dare touch him, the loudest sound. I never imagined you would commit such a heinous act. Unspeakable things. I was not allowed to speak. The eldest prince suddenly stood up from his seat. He pointed at me with a pained expression. This is exactly what my third brother and sister-in-law meant. Father Emperor has such high regard for your father. The imperial concubine treated you poorly, as did the stepmother and daughter. How could you commit such a heinous crime? Outrageous acts. I slowly raised my head, supporting myself on the ground. Such evil arts have wreaked havoc on the imperial court. Everyone should kill him. Guards, seize this wicked woman. The person handed over to the emperor. Several palace guards immediately emerged from behind him. They approached me menacingly, swords drawn, glinting cold light. Once the guilt of the 5 grains is confirmed, that would be a heinous crime. Blood from his forehead flowed into his eyes. Xing then stabbed to death. When the family is strong, the beaded curtains will cover 9 generations of their clan. Even a god couldn't save him. The way everyone looked at me, it was like looking at a dead person. They all retreated, fearing I would implicate them. But I didn't even lift my eyelids. His expression remained calm. It's as if I'm not the one being besieged. It stung painfully. I just quietly watched that person. The palace maid kneeling on the ground. This is the one you picked out of the pastries yourself. What I saw with my own eyes. Absolutely not fake. The palace maid was stunned by my calmness. He paused for a moment before nodding repeatedly. Yes. I saw it with my own eyes. I picked it up myself. Absolutely no falsehoods. Third prince. Have you thought this through? Okay. I nodded. The gaze turned to the eldest prince. The eldest prince was so indignant. Presumably, this was also for the sake of royal secrecy, for the sake of the imperial concubine's well-being. A sincere heart. Heaven and earth can bear witness. The prince flicked his embroidered robe. This statement is truly a masterful performance. Such evil arts have brought chaos to the royal family. This drop of blood is what you owe me for my national treasure, Kung Fu. Dongyao Guoben. How could I? The king. Sit idly by and do nothing. The judge's intention is for you to plead guilty. Well said. I chuckled, slowly stood up. Walk forward, step by step. Since that's the case, please take a good look. What exactly is this truly evil magic? Who exactly is this traitor? Buddha slowly stepped forward. As soon as he finished speaking, he took the talisman from the palace maid's hand. Fingertips traced the characters on the talisman. He spoke softly. Crooked handwriting, rough brushstrokes. It seems the person who made this was in a hurry. They were eager to kill me. My art style changed. The eldest prince's expression grew increasingly grim. His eyes were full of mockery. A figure burst into the hall. Eldest brother. Do you know that as early as half a month ago, something was handed to me? I've always been curious. Who exactly is it? What could make Liu Qingyi, a concubine who was confined to her quarters, so powerful, still able to stir up trouble? It can also mobilize people in the palace to put on such a grand show for me in the palace. I held a letter from a bee high in the air, facing the fully charged guests. He helped me up. The sound is clear. So let's open it and take a look now. Let's see what conspiracy is hidden behind this. Enough. The imperial concubine suddenly stood up. He interrupted me immediately. Now what else do you want to argue about? The black bone talisman was right in front of me. You still want to fabricate evidence to support someone else's empress? I looked him straight in the eye. Rather than being tougher than ever before, without the slightest concession, the movements were swift and efficient. You want to see something unclear and ambiguous. The case of Wugu. A wrongful conviction. I still want to see a prince collude with a foreign official, intending to frame loyal and virtuous people, murdering the daughter of a meritorious official, treason that shakes the foundation of the nation. The words "great joy at plotting rebellion" were uttered. The hall was deathly silent. All eyes. In an instant, from that small imperial talisman, I'll send you to the family temple to become a nun. Who dares to touch my Shen family's daughter? The traitorous letter was transferred to my possession. The crown prince's forehead, fine beads of cold sweat had already formed. My legs trembled slightly. His eyes were filled with panic. Out of fear, I no longer look at him. Scratching open with your fingernail in front of everyone is so cool. The thin sheet of letter was slowly unfolded. The word also was pronounced clearly. Green robe without obstacles. Who dares to touch my Shen family's daughter? Seeing the words is like seeing the person. You must be patient. Wait peacefully in the temple. I have already made all the arrangements for the flower viewing party, bribing palace maids to bury the dead in the valley. We will surely condemn the woman who possesses the martial arts skills to eternal damnation, never to rise again. Then I will help you escape from the family temple. You are now the rightful wife of the third prince. Help me ascend to the position of regent. My mother and her parents scanned the entire room with a sense of unease. Share in prosperity. My voice trailed off here. Raise your head and smile. Fei laughed as he looked at the ashen-faced man. The eldest prince was trembling all over. The words after eldest brother are for you to read. Let me read it for you. The handwriting on this letter is your own. The hardware on this letter is the private seal of the first prince's residence. You can't deny it even if you want to. Suppressed anger surged in his eyes. The eldest prince's face turned deathly pale inch by inch. Without a trace of blood, the guards behind him also stopped in their tracks, neither advancing nor retreating. The scene froze eerily for a moment. How? Is my eldest brother illiterate or afraid to read? Why don't you speak? I pressed on step by step, cold tone. Or is this letter actually written by you? The third prince has quite the airs. This whole 5-grain scheme was set up by you. You intend to frame me for suppressing the third prince, plotting to seize the throne, deceiving the emperor. He deserves to die. You're spouting nonsense. The prince finally realized what was happening. Teachers and students screamed. But no false accusation was made. Prince's good intentions. You have such audacity. In fact, in his own residence. I've never been very brave. I only dare to tell the truth. I casually handed the letter to the interior designer beside me. He was asked to pass it on to everyone to see. Besides this letter, I have witnesses. Physical evidence gradually became conclusive. You can't deny it, even if you want to. My words surprised everyone again. I clapped my hands. A young eunuch dressed in inner court attire stood outside the shop, to lay a hand on the legitimate daughter of a noble family. He was forced in by my personal guards. Upon seeing the scene inside the store, upon seeing the eldest prince, he immediately collapsed to the ground, shaking all over, soul scattered. Do you recognize this eldest brother? I looked at the first prince and spoke calmly. The eldest prince's pupils suddenly shrank to pinpoints. His face was as pale as paper. He couldn't say a word. The third prince's expression remained unchanged. I didn't wait for his reply. He then said to the young eunuch, "What did you say a few days ago?" "Sneak into the third prince's residence. Send a letter to Liu Qingyi at the family temple, bribing palace maids to plant burial in the valley. And whose money did you take? Who is just yours? Tell it in detail." "Well," said I. "The princess consort will spare your life, if you dare to conceal, but soon again. Immediately executed." The little eunuch was in tears, kowtowing repeatedly. "I dare not hide anything." The servant said it all. "It is His Highness, the first prince." The eunuch Li beside him gave it to the servant. "Et thunder tails of silver. Let the slaves deliver a letter to consort Liu Sei in the family temple." He reverted to his arrogant and fearless demeanor. He even had his servants bribe the palace maid Xiao Lian, burying the princess at a flower viewing banquet. Wu Wufu was used to frame the princess. The servant will be given 1,000 taels of silver after the deed is done. "Release the servants from the palace," he said. While shivering from her arms, he pulled out a silver note with a rustling sound. "Raise high. This is the deposit that eunuch Li gave to this servant." I was stunned for a moment. He raised the blood-stained contract in his hand. The silver note bears the seal of the first prince's residence. The servant dares not lie. The physical evidence was all given to the prince by his own father. Eunuch. A letter written by the eldest prince. The little eunuch's testimony. The identities of the palace maids are gradually becoming more and more certain. There's no way to deny it. I also picked up that 5-grains talisman, in front of everyone. He took out a tinderbox and gently lit it. "Wrinkle-free burning, Lady of the Duke of Zheng." A strange green smoke rose up. It has a faint herbal scent. I held the burnt-out flask in my palm. His calm tone shocked everyone. "This is not a 5-grains talisman. This is the drunken dream grass. Small doses can cause mental confusion, hallucination, dizziness, and fatigue. Restless. You've come at the perfect time. Long-term use is the only way to harm one's life. Imperial concubine. Have you been feeling dizzy lately? Fatigue and restlessness. Sleepless nights." This was all secretly orchestrated by Dao Huangzi. "Add this dream grass to your diet. It has nothing to do with me." The imperial concubine's expression changed completely. Thinking about the recent issues, Shen Ji has voluntarily signed the documents. The look into Huangzi's eyes, filled with anger and fear. Big Yellow Seed could no longer hold on. He fell to his knees with a thud, pale as a ghost. He kowtowed repeatedly and was resurrected. "Your son has been wronged. Shen Ji framed me. He fabricated a political situation. At this moment, willing to serve my world." A majestic announcement came from outside the palace. "His Majesty has arrived." Everyone knelt down in unison. I didn't even dare to breathe. My father stepped out from the military commander's seat. He also knelt down. His eyes were fixed on me, full of worries. The emperor strode in with an imposing presence. Longyan Majesty. He didn't even look at the people kneeling on the ground. With the Duke of Zhang's own Marco, he walked straight up to me. He took the letter from my hand, the dream grass in my palm. He read the letter quickly, skimming through it. He then held the dream weed to his nose and smelled it. His face was so gloomy it could drip water. His rage seemed to burn the entire hall to the ground. The boss spoke up. His voice revealed no emotion, but this made the eldest prince tremble all over. He threw that uncle aside. "Do you have anything to say?" The eldest prince trembled all over, lips trembling. He can't even say a complete sentence. He could only repeatedly mutter, "Your Majesty, I have been wronged. Your subject no longer needs the emperor's attention." His gaze shifted to the person kneeling behind him. The third prince with his head bowed very low. Cold tone, full of disappointment. It was thrown at my mother's feet. The third son's own residence was in complete disarray. He can't even control a woman. I was even used as a pawn, unaware that they were being schemed against. You're quite the sneak attacker, aren't you? As a pranks. The third prince shuddered and lowered his head even further. Without saying a word, my heart is filled with regret and fear. Finally, the emperor's gaze fell upon me. I did not kneel. This duck was drawn by his own hand. She simply stood there quietly, meeting his gaze. Calm eyes. Without the slightest fear. Yang Jiu and Chen Sheng were dealt with. Just 5 short words. It determined the fate of everyone. That day, the palace was awash in blood. Their conspiracy was completely exposed. Liu Qingyi had already been flogged and sent to the family temple, this time involved in the plot to rebel. The bloodstains were still wet. An even more serious crime. The emperor ordered. He recited the royal identity of the child from the affiliated middle school. They carried him out of the ancestral temple in a straw mat, thrown out of the city for resettlement. The area outside the city became his final resting place. The eldest prince plots to seize the throne, framing loyal and good people. Deceiving the emperor is a heinous crime. Confined to the imperial clan court, the third prince quickly came out from behind the screen. Liu Qingyi added fuel to the fire. Resignation from the status of prince. No license. No life imprisonment. Never to rise again. The third prince was poor at judging people. Managing a household requires silence. Indulging in machinery to disrupt the government. He was severely reprimanded by the emperor in front of the entire court. Completely extinguished any thought of seizing the enemy's territory. It became a laughing stock in the capital. She was no longer qualified to compete for the title of consort of Chu and Wei. Your Highness did it for your sister Ji. Ineffective parenting. Indulging his son's neglect by the emperor. Relocated to the cold palace. No more favor. And I, Shan Ziyi, relied on my own strength, exposing the conspiracy. Protected myself. Protected the national martial arts. Deeply trusted by the emperor. My dad found me afterwards. A good woman maintains her dignity. After holding it in for a long time, he only managed to say one word, daughter. If this happens again, Grandpa carried it himself. Father directly led his troops and wiped them out. No one dares to bully you. My mother held my hand. He stuffed a thick stack of banknotes into my hand, with a smile that makes your eyes crinkle. Who will dare to bully you again? Kill him with money. Mother is willing to spend any amount of money. I am truly unwilling to share a husband with you in the future. Mother doesn't care. I looked at the 2 people in front of me who loved me so much. A warm feeling in my heart. He pulled out a pre-written divorce agreement from his pocket, handed to them, father and mother. I saw their bright smiles. My daughter did it. The emperor can bestow marriages. It can also give my daughter freedom. On the contrary, they are difficult to get along with. I have already requested permission from His Majesty. Reasonable with the third prince. From now on, I am no longer the third prince's consort. Shen Ziyi, the legitimate daughter of Zheng Guo Kung Fu. Who cares about the third prince? What prince? What kitchen and bathroom disputes? None of this concerns me. From now on. The sea. My mother's knee pads visibly paused for a moment. The sky is high enough for fish to leap and birds to fly. I stayed with my parents, guarding my national martial arts. People living peaceful lives while guarding the border. The 3 of us smiled at each other. The end of the year is filled with tenderness and happiness. Sunlight streamed in through the window, warm and bright. The days to come. No disputes. No conspiracy. He glanced down at the glaring contract. No grievances. They're all sweet. He looked up again at the prince. Oh. Right. I almost forgot. The third prince then took out a letter from Xu Zhang. He held the girl and comforted her with heartache. He shook it casually. I also have an anonymous letter here. Report Zhengguo Kung Fu's possession of weapons. Embezzling military benefits. Huge amount. Conclusive evidence. He unfolded the letter. A bright red seal was prominently stamped on it. Although the specific content is unclear, but that seal symbolized supreme power. Marrying her was merely to appease the high-ranking officials. Mindful of past affections, past mistakes can be forgiven, as long as Zhengguo Gongfu confiscates all the property in the mansion, dedicated to the king. And he paused. His gaze fell on me. Shen Ziyi, from now on, you will obediently serve in my palace. Serve me and the army doctor. This king may consider letting the Duke of Zhengguo's mansion go. San. 000 cavalrymen were mistakenly described as an army of 300. Ling ling ling. My baby is still in your belly. As soon as he said that. This is blatant extortion and coercion by the entire Chinese audience. My mother's face darkened completely. His hands clenched into fists. The third prince turned pale instantly. He hadn't finished speaking. The third prince's face darkened. Madam is unwilling. Before the words were finished, the third prince suddenly waved his hand. A tidal wave of footsteps came from outside the door. Liu Qingyi smiled smugly. Take down this mother and daughter. White man. The guards immediately rushed forward. They surrounded my mother and me. The sound of swords being drawn. The sound echoed in the hall, cold and harsh. My mother shielded me behind her. At this critical moment, a deafening roar came from outside. Who dares to touch my 7 daughters? Shen Yan. But I saw the imperial concubine burst out laughing. Your Majesty had already said so. Then came the heavy scraping sound of armor. The sound entered my ears in unison. Thump, thump, thump. It felt like stepping on everyone's heart. The door to the Tang dynasty was pushed open with a bang. My dad has sharp eyes. The soldiers behind him were like iron towers. The arrogant and domineering third prince. He even subconsciously took half a step back. My dad glanced at the mess in the room. I don't necessarily have to marry the third prince. My gaze finally fell on the bloodstains on my forehead, on my mother's slightly disheveled hairline. Li Qingyi, is this how you treat my daughter? When the prince forced himself to remain calm. Shen Yan, you have such audacity. How dare they lead troops to break into the prince's residence? Are you trying to disobey the imperial decree? Disobeying the imperial decree. My father sneered. His Majesty said, when I, the commander, repelled the enemy in Beijing back then, you were still playing in the mud in the palace wearing open crotch pants. You think you're worthy to discuss the words disobeying orders with me? After saying that, he walked straight to my mother's side, shedding the heavy armor. The cloak was wrapped around my mother. He reached out cautiously again. He wanted to touch the wound on my forehead, but I was afraid of hurting my hand. So it hung in midair. Parents, who I appoint as my wife depends on who my husband is. I'm fine. But I can see the heartache in their eyes. My nose tingled. My dad withdrew his hand. He turned around and faced the third prince again. Li Qingyi is the daughter of the marshal. Even I, the coach, I'm reluctant to say a harsh word. What right do you have to touch him? The third prince was rendered speechless by my father's imposing presence. He could only instinctively shield Liu Qingyi behind him. Liu Qingyi, however, fearlessly stuck her head out. During the banquet, Xuanji offered a toast for a moment, then burst into laughter, relying on the so-called imperial grandson in her belly, Lord Jian Shengdao. It is Shan Ziyi. He himself doesn't know how to appreciate kindness. Disrespecting your highness is a minor matter. His grades taught him to be disciplined. My father scoffed and said, that's the rule of the Shen family. Who made my daughter? A drop of blood from a child. I made him pay the price, just like his parents. Before he finished speaking, body and mind swayed. A crisp, loud slap. Liu Qing was sent flying by the slap. He crashed heavily into the wolf pillar and rolled to the ground. Disheveled hairline, a slant at the corner of the mouth. He couldn't get up for half a day. Everyone was stunned. Nobody expected it. He's already bragging at such a young age. My father actually dared to do that in front of the third prince. He directly attacked the person he cared about. You dare hit the third prince in blue robes. He finally realized what was happening. He pointed at my father. Both shocked and angry, my dad slowly withdrew his hand after hitting him. If it weren't for the baby in his belly, this coach will not let him off easily today. He stepped forward. He reached out and grabbed the third prince by the collar. He was lifted up completely. Such is the family tradition. I'll ask you one more time. Who gave you the audacity to touch my daughter? The third prince's feet were off the ground. Face turned red. People came to escort. Seize this traitorous minister for me. But his guards, facing my father, the pack of ferocious border lords behind them. Who dares to step forward? He actually managed to guard the border. While my mother loved to pretend, still wet behind the ears. My father threw the third prince on the ground. His eyes were full of disdain. Bring your daughter. We went home. My mother nodded. Support me. In a passage opened up by those border soldiers. Walk outside. Shen Yan. You can't leave. The third prince scrambled to his feet, looking disheveled. How dare you utter such treasonous words? You thought you left today. Is that the end of it? You trespassed into the prince's residence. To lay a hand on a prince is tantamount to treason. His Majesty will not let you get away with this. My father's steps faltered. He didn't turn around. This commander is waiting. Back to the Duke of Zhengguo's mansion. My father immediately ordered someone to fetch the best doctor. Jing Zhong, treat me. I sat upright without even lifting my eyelids. My mother's tears kept falling, but he still stubbornly insisted on it. Why are you crying? It's just a little scratch. Your mother followed your father to the border back then. I've suffered injuries far more serious than this. I watched as they also picked up the attack tokens from their hands. My parents are the people who love me most in this world. I will never allow anyone to trample on this love. 3 days later, outside the Imperial Martial Arts Gate, gongs and drums resounded. The third prince actually sent a humble sedan chair. Liu Qingyi couldn't contain herself. It stopped at the foot of the door. The butler stood in front of the sedan chair. He announced loudly to the crowd, Shen Ziyi, the legitimate daughter of the Emperor's kingdom. Misconduct. Thank you for your kindness. Your Highness, voluntarily reduced to a concubine. Today I have come to take my concubine into the family. My dad was so angry he was trembling all over. The third prince is going to tarnish the reputation of my national martial arts. He walked up to me with his head held high, completely trampled underfoot. The surrounding courtiers whispered among themselves. Just when the third prince was at his most complacent, a bright yellow figure descended like a god. Walking out of the general's mansion, the figure walked step by step, without saying a word. He raised his foot and kicked the third prince hard in the chest. Bang! The third prince was sent flying backward. He fell to the ground in a sorry state. Although we will call each other sisters in the future, He clutched his chest and looked up in terror. When they could clearly see the person's face, fear of sudden contraction. Fu Hang Niza. How dare you humiliate the daughter of a meritorious official in the street? Do you really think soldiers are indifferent to everything? The emperor roared. Thunder rumbled across the long street. The onlookers and civil and military officials of my court. Chi-Chi's heart skipped a beat. But there's always a first come, first serve order in everything. I didn't even dare to breathe properly. The hem of the distinctly yellow dragon robe swept across the ground. It was stained with some scraps of paper that had been scattered in the chaos. The emperor's body was filled with cold air, more bone-chilling than the cold of the dead of winter. His gaze was like a knife. He bent straight toward the third prince Li Jingyan, who was sprawled on the ground. Every word carried an unquestionable divine authority. I've heard that you made a solemn vow with Liu Jiashu. It has been decided that he will be the principal wife. Your Highness is worried about my heavy body. They even secretly decided on your future throne as the Emperor of Chu. What audacity! Who's the main focus? This is my decree. It is the justice of the court. Why should you be with a woman who doesn't even know what she is? Private decision. The surrounding respect is truly evident in the fragrant talent. The common people still dared to whisper. At this moment, they all received promotions with ease. Why don't you offer me this cup of grandmother's tea today? I didn't even dare to breathe. Tea stalls, wine shops, and temples along the street. People who were originally craning their necks to watch the excitement. At this moment, they all shrank back, fearing being caught in the emperor's wrath. Ren Guogong's personal guards wielded long spears, upright and graceful. He stared intently at the emperor. His eyes were full of admiration. His Majesty ultimately protected his own family and property. As soon as these words were spoken, protecting the meritorious soldiers who fought for the country on the battlefield, the emperor raised his voice. His sharp eyes swept over the assembled civil and military officials. The voices of the people resonated throughout every corner of the long street. I hereby reiterate my statement today. Shen Ziyi, the eldest daughter of the Duke of Shen. She is the third prince's principal wife, personally chosen by me. This unshakable principle remains unyielding. Who dares to make sense again? Non-royal marriage. Every year during disaster relief efforts, they donate most of their family fortune. The room was completely silent. Humiliating the daughter of a meritorious official, that is to oppose me. Opposing the laws of the great Zhou dynasty. His words, every word carries immense weight and strikes a chord in everyone's heart. The courtiers who were originally waiting to see the national treasure's kung fu become a laughing stock. His face was deathly pale. They all lowered their heads and looked at each other. He secretly felt a chill run down his spine from the discussion just now. The third prince stared at the ground, his face ashen. An unmarried princess. My whole body was shaking uncontrollably. His previous arrogance had vanished completely. Only endless fear and despair remained. He never expected this. I only wanted to thwart the will of the gods. How could I possibly anger my father? This world has ended up like this. As for you, the emperor's gaze returned to the third prince, with a chilling meaning, like a concubine serving tea to her grandmother. It's like looking at a piece of trash again. Li Jingyan, you are morally deficient. Arrogance. No one is without respect for elders. Bullying the daughter of a meritorious official. A 3-month lockdown begins today. A year of madness. Reflecting on one's mistakes behind closed doors. Without the emperor's will, no one may step out of the prince's residence. This is utterly humiliating. The third prince struggled to get up, opening his mouth as if to explain. But when he met the emperor's cold eyes, all the words stuck in his throat. He couldn't say a word. He could only watch helplessly as the emperor's inner workings unfolded. Step forward. With a blank expression, he gestured for him to get up and return to the palace. That appearance was the same as when he sent the steward to humiliate the interrogator earlier. How intense is the longing for someone at this moment? She slowly raised her eyes to look at his slightly balding belly, but he was in a terrible mess. The emperor's gaze slowly shifted to the back of the crowd. Sitting in the corner, Liu Qingyi, trying to conceal her identity. Liu Qingyi was wearing a plain-colored dress. She still pretended to be weak as she held her belly, but the panic in his eyes could no longer be concealed. The emperor looked over. Her legs went weak. He knelt down directly on the ground. Some girls might have made a mistake. Shivering, Emperor Liu Qingyi's voice was calm, but this made Liu Qingyi freeze. You bewitched the prince. Destroy the goalkeeper. Disrespectful to the principal wife. The thought of insubordination is in your heart. My child is still alive, so I will temporarily spare your life. However, the death penalty can be waived. He cannot escape punishment. I don't need you to offer me this cup of tea. Someone come and drag him away. 30 strokes of the cane. Entering a family temple for private purposes. Not by my decree. He can never come out. Your Majesty, please spare my life. Liu Qingyi and her students screamed. Want to crawl over and beg for mercy. However, he was held down firmly by the palace guards. He looked at the third prince. After all, the third prince's wife hasn't been chosen yet. I hope he can save me. But even the third prince himself is in dire need of protection at this moment. She didn't even dare to look at him. Liu Qingyi finally understood. I am nothing more than the third prince's plaything. It was the eldest prince's pawn. And now the game has collapsed. He was the first wife to be abandoned. Shang's 30. With his delicate physique, even if there is no immediate harm, it can leave a lifelong disability. The third prince immediately stood up. Moreover, what about being imprisoned for life in a family temple, with only the dim light of ancient lamps and Buddha statues? Talking about death and remnants of life. What's the difference between this and leaving this world? The guards moved swiftly. He directly lifted Liu Qingyi up and continued walking. His cries gradually faded into the distance. The onlookers all turned their heads in surprise. There was not a trace of adultery in his eyes. I can only despise that arrogant woman. The rabbit is riding on the head of the eldest daughter of the Duke of Zheng's mansion. Shen Zhiyi shielded Liu Qingyi behind him. This was simply courting death. The emperor watched as the chaos subsided. His gaze fell on my forehead, on wounds that have not yet fully scabbed over. His gaze softened slightly. Duke Zheng nodded to my father. Shen Yan, you women of the Shen family have been wronged. My father knelt on one knee, with a resounding voice. I dare not boast of my great fame under the moon. Come on. The emperor waved his hand. He stubbornly insisted that he didn't care about such a small amount of money. Don't be so ungrateful. Qing, no more words. Surrounded by the interior, he turned and left. Dragon Nian moved forward slowly. The bright yellow figure disappeared at the end of the long street, but that divine might still lingered in everyone's hearts, until the emperor's figure completely disappeared. The long street gradually regained some of its vitality. No one dared to utter another word. The court officials all stepped forward and bowed to my father in apology, rather than being extremely respectful. There was no trace of previous arrogance. The child in her womb is my child. My father had a cold face and sweaty hands. He did not say much. He walked straight to my side. I carefully helped my daughter up. Does it hurt? Daddy will take you home. My mother's eyes were red. Reach out and gently brush away the stray hairs from my forehead. Afraid of hurting the wound, he still stubbornly insisted that it was just a minor injury. What is this little bit of pain to us, Shen family children? Able to bear children. Go home and have the doctor apply some good medicine. It will get better in a few days. But his slightly trembling hand. But it revealed the heartache in my heart. I leaned against my parents. A warm feeling in my heart. In this world, only my parents would protect me without hesitation. Hold me in the palm of your hand. Treat as a treasure. Back to the Duke of Zheng's mansion. I chuckled softly. The mansion was already in complete chaos. The butler and a group of servants knelt at the door, a face full of fear. My dad waved his hand. Everyone get up and prepare the best commercial medicines. Please invite the most famous doctor in Jingzhou. The doctor arrived quickly. He was the retired director of the Imperial Medical Academy. Medical expertise. Specialized in the diagnosis and treatment of Jing Shangquan's collapse. The gaze shifted to the imperial concubine in the main seat. He carefully cleaned my wound. Gentle movements. Afraid of hurting me, my mother sat to the side. Hold my hand tightly. His eyes never left my forehead. He kept muttering, be gentle. Bay Gentler. So as not to leave scars. The doctor praised the Duke while applying the medicine. Otherwise, Miss is very lucky and has a long life. How dare a concubine's daughter with no eyebrows be a proper wife? Although the wound was deep, however, it did not injure the muscles and bones. He will recover after a few days of rest. It will not leave scars. My dad finally breathed a sigh of relief. My heart, which had been hanging in suspense, finally relaxed a little. He sat to the side watching me. His eyes were full of guilt. It was all his father's fault. If father had returned to Beijing sooner, then I wouldn't let you suffer such injustice. Isn't it a bit too early to name the child? I shook my head. Dad doesn't blame you. I chose to step into this vortex myself. Now I can grind it myself. My mother gave me a hand warmer. Then they had someone bring over bird's nest porridge to nourish the body first. Put everything else aside. Who dares to bully your mother again? They smashed all of his family's assets, making it impossible for him to move an inch in the capital. Get revenge for you. The third prince's expression changed drastically. Seeing my parents like this, the warmth in the mirror is even stronger. The third prince gripped the attack token hidden in his sleeve. The crown prince and the imperial concubine. You owe me. What the Duke of Jingguo's mansion owes me. I will get it all back. Little by little, that night, the Zhengguo Duke's mansion was brightly lit. My mother had the treasures in the mansion brought out. The banknotes were all moved in front of me. Everyone in the capital knows. Piled up into a small mountain. Daughter, all of these are yours. I'll buy you any sheep you want. Who dares to oppose you? We'll just throw money at him until he can't lift his head. My father then had his personal sword placed by my bedside. Chen Sheng took this knife and followed his father to fight in Beijing, protecting the country. Now it's here with you. If anyone dares to lay a hand on you again. My father was stationed on the frontier year-round. Father will not let him off easily. I looked at my parents. My eyes felt slightly warm. Everyone says my dad loves to brag. They called 3,000 cavalrymen 300,000 troops. And everyone said my mother loved Zhuang. He donated most of his wealth and said he didn't feel bad about it. But only I know they're boasting. The confidence to safeguard the border. Their makeup reflects their kindness and concern for the people. And all their tenderness and favoritism. They all went to me. My daughter who blushes whenever she lies. These two pretentious people got together. My mother is busy with her business again. Early the next morning, a bright yellow imperial edict. Then it was managed by the provincial governor of the inner city. He personally delivered it to the Duke of Zheng's residence, despite the eunuch's smiling face. Extremely respectful. This is completely different from how we treat ordinary ghosts. He unfolded the imperial edict. Read aloud. He reprimanded the third prince Li Jingyan with harsh words. I lived with my aunt in Jiangnan since I was a child. What they did. He was ordered to lift the house arrest immediately. Personally visit. To me. To the Zhengguo Duke's mansion. A repeated plea for forgiveness must not be made without an imperial edict. Reading completed. The chief eunuch personally handed the imperial edict to my father. Miss Yen. The uncle who made the sacrifice. Your Majesty truly dotes on your wife. Mrs. Decree. He bet I was ignorant and spineless. That's to support our Duke Zhengguo's mansion. My father is a simple Han-style character. A certain amount of silver was given to the head eunuch. The head eunuch left, profusely thanking him. The servants in the mansion all stood tall and proud. His face was full of triumphant expressions. After this incident, the prestige of my Zhengguo Duke's mansion has not diminished but rather increased. No one in the capital dared to underestimate the martial arts of the state protector. Everyone knows. A few words of intimidation and they'll surround him in Mashu town. The eldest daughter of the Shen family is someone personally protected by His Majesty. She was the apple of the eye of the Duke of Zheng. You can't mess with them or scold them. Even more unacceptable. Dusk, sunset. The afterglow shone on the vermilion gates of the Duke of Zheng's mansion, shining brightly. The third prince, Deviant, has also arrived. He only brought 2 personal charioteers with him. Even the prince was spared a battle. Unfortunately, he made the wrong bet. Wearing a plain-colored long dress, disheveled hair, his face turned ashen, heavy steps. He clearly wanted to keep a low profile, to preserve the last shred of one's ridiculous dignity. But he didn't know. The moment he humiliated me in the street, his dignity had already been trampled under his feet. When he stepped into the gate of the Duke of Zheng's mansion, it seems the Duke of Zheng failed to teach you proper manners. He paused in his steps, looking at the imposing Chen Shi in the mansion. Neat and orderly Qing soldiers. A glint of a giant wing flashed in his eyes. But it's too late now. He had no choice. They had no choice but to bite the bullet and go inside. Within the Tang dynasty, my father is sitting in the main seat. He slowly wiped his precious sword. Today, I, the king, will take him and teach you a lesson. The blade was sharp and cold. His cold, handsome profile was reflected in the sunlight. Every wipe carries the power of 1,000 troops. My mother sat to the side, holding a cup of tranquil tribute tea, gently skim off the foam, relaxed. It was as if he hadn't even seen him come in. I stood behind my parents. A bodysuit. He had barely finished speaking. Medicine was applied to the forehead. She looked at him calmly. There was not a ripple in his eyes. It's like looking at a stranger. Li Jingyan stopped in the center of the lobby, footsteps and throat bobbing a few times. He was speechless for a long time. He looked at my dad, then at me. His face turned pale and then red. Finally, he managed to squeeze out a few words from between his teeth. Shen. They actually wanted to attack me in public. Shen Shuai. My father finally stopped wiping the precious sword, slowly raised his head. His gaze fell upon him like a hawk's. The tone was calm, yet carried the weight of 1,000 troops. The third prince's confinement period has not yet ended. What brings you to my little temple? Could it be that they feel His Majesty's decree is ineffective? Her fist, with her eyes closed, clenched tightly inside her sleeve. His forehead was filled with violent energy. The hall was full of Chinese guests. Anger surged within him, but in the face of my father's imposing presence. But they dared not utter a sound. He took a deep breath, suppressed the strength in my heart, using all my strength. Only then did I manage to make my voice sound calmer. Yesterday's events. This king is mine. I did not come here specifically to apologize to Miss Shen, but this gave rise to my saying. A smug smile curled at the corners of Liu Qingyi's lips. He stiffly cupped his hands in my direction as he spoke. Used to be extremely perfunctory. His eyes were full of resentment and unwillingness. The gambling woman put down her teacup. Compassion and desktop collision. It made a crisp sound. It was exceptionally clear in the quiet lobby. He looked up at Xiao Li Jingyan. In a flat tone, we heard His Highness's apology, every word of which was like pearls from his heart. His hand was about to grab my shoulder. However, the sincerity of the apology. However, I didn't quite notice it. Could it be that Your Highness thinks a mere insignificant remark is inappropriate? That would erase the grievances my daughter suffered. That would erase the humiliations suffered by my Duke Zhengguo's mansion. Li Jingyan suddenly looked up, unable to suppress the anger in his heart any longer. Enraged. What else do you want? My father has already punished me. Isn't confinement and fines enough? I neither dodged nor avoided. Shen Zhiyi wasn't seriously injured either. Why be so aggressive? His Majesty punished you for the sake of the royal family's reputation. It is to uphold the laws of the imperial court. My father shoved the precious sword back into its sheath with a loud thud. The sound was resounding, and the great Tang dynasty hummed loudly. What my Zheng State Duke's mansion demands is justice for my daughter. You are the one. the price of humiliation he suffered. My father stood up, step by step toward Li Jingyan. She just stared at him coldly. A murderous aura emanated from him. That was in the sea of blood at Lion Mountain in Beijing, the refined killing intent. This was far beyond the ability of a pampered prince to resist. Li Jingyan is the daughter of the marshal, Evan I, the coach. I am reluctant to say a harsh word. I can't bear to touch a single finger. Marrying you is your blessing. It is a blessing for the royal family. But what about you, third prince? You dare touch me and see what happens. He tolerated a woman who was not presentable in public, humiliating him. Attack him, forcing him to sign that kind of document. He made him kneel in public. This debt, a casual no, is not enough to smooth things over. Li Jingyan was forced to retreat step by step by my father's imposing presence. His back pressed against the pillar of the lobby. There was nowhere left to retreat. His face turned from red to white. The third prince's hand froze in midair. From white to green. Knowing in one's heart, if a satisfactory explanation is not given today, it's probably true. You can't leave the gate of this national treasure, Kung Fu. My father held significant military power. He enjoys the deep trust of His Majesty. If you really push him to the limit, the consequences would be unimaginable. He gritted his teeth. He didn't dare to lay a hand on me himself. I closed my eyes and let go of all my pride and dignity. Finally, it bowed deeply to me. 90-degree bow. He couldn't straighten up for a long time. Miss Shen. All your mistakes are my fault. I was wrong to judge people too highly. I was arrogant and conceited. I'm sorry. Please forgive my proud head. The once arrogant third prince. I wouldn't dare gamble on my father's support for him. In the end, they bowed their heads before the Duke of Zheng's mansion. I slowly walked out from behind my father, looking down at him. Your Highness's apology was calm and unwavering. However, an apology alone is not enough to ban someone. Suddenly looked up. His eyes were filled with frustration and anger, staring intently at me. What else do you want to do, Shen Ziyi? Don't push your luck, taking an inch and wanting a mile. But under the watchful eyes of everyone, I have lived a life of filial piety. His eyes were full of coldness. When your Highness humiliated me in public, did you ever think of? Did your Highness consider this when you forced me to sign the document today? The bottom line now is simply to make amends for your mistakes. How can you be so greedy? I looked at him. Clearly state my requirements. Vort by vort. 3 days later, I want your Highness to use the full ceremonial retinue of the principal wife. His dignity was trampled underfoot by me. A woman, 8-bearer sedan chair. 16 people carried the phoenix coronet and embroidered robe. I was welcomed into the Huangzi mansion from the main gate of the Zhengguogong mansion. There must be no negligence whatsoever. No reduction in ceremonial regalia. No reason may be used. Tang Song Li Jingyan's expression changed. I was about to refute him, but I didn't give him the chance. Continuing with the second. The day I entered the mansion, the good boy who blushes when he lies. He couldn't swallow this insult. All the bells in the prince's mansion broke. All ledgers, warehouse keys, farmhouse book, the frightening personnel reshuffle. Everything must be handed over to me. Starting today, I am in charge of all matters, big and small. In the prince's residence, you must not interfere. Shen insisted that you shouldn't go too far. Very well. Li Jing roared angrily. His face turned bright red. That's my footing. What gives you the right to control the situation? I sneered. And there's something even more outrageous. All of Liu Qingyi's dowry, clothing and supplies. It must be completely clean before I enter the residence. Thrown out of the prince's residence. The third prince was furious and turned around. I don't want to be in my own place. See anything unclean. I don't want to hear any news about him. Each one, I said. The less you look at someone, the more unpleasant their expression becomes. In the end, he was so angry that he was trembling all over, pointing at me. Unable to speak for a long time. Impossible. I won't agree to him. The woman in blue is pregnant with my child. You can't do this to him. The eldest daughter of Zhengguo Kung Fu truly possesses integrity. Your Highness, you'd better think this through. I stepped forward. She looked at him with icy eyes. It is something that I, as your principal wife, should rightfully receive. It is a right personally granted by His Majesty. If you do not, then I will go to the palace now to demand justice from His Majesty. Go ask His Majesty. The virtuous and stable principal wife. A sudden change in art style. Don't they even have this basic sense of decency? The emperor's eyebrows and eyes stiffened. The anger in his eyes was instantly replaced by fear. He stared intently at me. That look in his eyes seemed to want to devour me whole, but he dared not resist in the slightest. After a long while, he finally closed his eyes reluctantly, squeezing out a single word through gritted teeth. Good. I'm seducing you. A cold smile curled at the corner of my lips. Someone. Hold him down. Objective achieved. The third prince. This is just the beginning. You owe me. I will escape from the prince's residence bit by bit. The auspicious time will arrive in 3 days. The wedding procession of Huang Zifu was accompanied by music and fanfare. The sound of gongs and drums filled the air. It stopped in front of the Duke of Zheng's mansion. The complete set of the principal wife's clothes was exactly the same size. 8-bearer sedan chair. carved with dragons and phoenixes. His 2 guards immediately stepped forward, adorned with pearls and jewels. 16 priests, dressed in red, stood tall and straight. Grand scene. This attracted crowds of onlookers from the capital. I was full of praise. I wore an elaborate and luxurious phoenix coronet and embroidered ornaments, wearing the phoenix crown of Kowloon Temple, wearing a brocade wedding dress. The skirt trailed on the ground, embroidered with a picture of 100 sons and 1,000 grandsons. You moved to the left and right, placing your shoulder against mine. Incredibly luxurious. Supported by the matchmaker and maids, I walked out of the Duke of Zhengguo's mansion step by step, stepping into my own 8-bearer sedan chair. My dad was standing at the door, eyes slightly red. He slipped me a jade pendant to wear close to my body. If the daughter suffers any grievances at home, send someone back with a message anytime. Father will immediately lead troops to pick you up. The force was so great it felt like it was going to crush my bones. My mother held my hand. He brought me a thick stack of silver notes and a tiger tally. This is mother's private property, and your father's troop mobilization tokens. You don't have to compromise yourself at the prince's residence. Who dares to bully you? Just throw money at it. Your fists will always be your backup plan. I looked at my parents and they nodded heavily. Turn around and step into the church. I did not struggle. The teacher slowly raised his head, rising and falling as I walked through the long streets of Beijing. Finally, it came to a steady stop in front of the prince's residence. I was supported by the wedding attendant. Step over the fire pit, stepping over the saddle, entering the prince's residence. The servants in the mansion ranged from stewards to menial laborers. They all knelt on both sides. A vast expanse of crows. So the day I first attended the selection banquet for the imperial concubine, my father taught me that if I were in a deep predicament, he didn't even dare to raise his head. Pu Kong, who used to swagger in front of Liu Qingyi. At this moment, everyone was chilled to the bone, afraid of upsetting me. But as soon as I stepped through the main hall's gate, a face full of wrinkles, the hunched old woman, he quickly blocked my way. He is Zhang, Liu Qingyi's wet nurse. She was also the former manager of Liu Qingyi's clothing department. Conserving energy is the best strategy. He let Liu Qingyi's favor allow him to act arrogantly and domineeringly in the mansion. Never pay attention to others. At this moment, a fake smile was plastered on his face. The princess consort helped me up. You must be tired from your journey. I have been waiting here for a long time. Liu Sifei was unwell. Unstable fetal development. Cannot stand the wind. Cannot stand the smell of joy. Shen Ziyi. Aren't you supposed to have integrity? His Highness specifically gave the instructions. Why don't you rest at Lanyue Pavilion in the west tonight? I will pay my respects to you after Liu Sifei has recovered. I sneered inwardly at Lanyue Pavilion. That's the most remote part of the prince's residence. Dilapidated courtyard. Sunlight never shines. Leaky air and leaky water. It's not even as good as a scary place to live. Li Jingyan. Today, I'll show you the benefits of guessing me. As expected, they still ignored what I said. The head he bowed to my father last night. Today, I've put it out of my mind. Still trying to intimidate me. I still want to protect Liu Qingyi and let her suffer. Running. The kneeling servants all secretly glanced at me. The end of the year is filled with a desire to watch the excitement. I want to see how the new queen, will handle this. Since that's the case, who is in charge of the rules? Then don't blame me for stopping. He also looked at Granny Zhang, rather than plain. It exudes an unquestionable authority. Oh, your Highness's command. This princess has been ordered to enter the palace today. I prayed to heaven and was destined to receive Jinju. She is the rightful and proper princess, consort of the prince. They should have moved in during the first month of the lunar calendar. When is it His Highness's turn to give orders? Able to be above imperial edicts. He kicked me in the back of the knee. Can overstep royal rules. Jiang Mama's face stiffened. He then forced a stiff smile and tried to argue. Your Highness is being too serious. His Highness was also considerate of Liu Sifei's weak health, also carrying yellow thorn. I'm afraid of offending you. It's also for your own good. Huang Si raised an eyebrow, his anger almost turning icy. His gaze swept over the servants around him, caught off guard. I knelt down heavily. Clear voice. The sound spread throughout the main hall. How come I didn't know that the rules of the Great Zhou dynasty included a prince's consort? The rule that one must avoid the imperial temple when entering the palace, even if it is reserved for a concubine. Which palace is this rumor coming from? Was it His Majesty's decree or Her Majesty's approval? I paused. The gaze returned to Granny Zhang. Selfishness destroys the heart. Did Granny Zhang think? My knee slammed against the cold, hard stone slab. This princess is a low-risk concubine who's secretly married into the household. Not His Majesty Qingfeng's noble consort. Need to give way to a mere concubine. They need to stay in a remote, dilapidated courtyard. Let an old slave like you do whatever you want. Jiang Momo's smile completely crumbled. Pale face. My whole body started to tremble. He didn't expect Momi, this seemingly delicate woman, so tough. It made a dull sound. Every sentence hits the nail on the head. His Majesty said it himself that day. I married into the prince's household. She is a proper princess consort. Undistinguished. No one can compare. Why does Granny Zhang think His Majesty's words? She's not even as precious as a concubine. It's not as effective as a casual order from His Highness. Now Jiang Mama completely lost her confidence, apologized to the blue-clad luggage. Her legs went weak, and she collapsed to her knees with a thud. Kneeling face, the forehead was carved into the bluestone slab, making a thumping sound. This servant dares not. This servant dares not. It was the servant who spoke out of turn. It's the servant who's confused. Please forgive me. Your Highness, please. Your Highness. Spare my life. I will dedicate my life to filial piety.